Hello and welcome to my advanced succession witch guide. This guide is meant as a follow-up video to the guide I did at the end of last year, where I showed you pretty much the basics of the class. And in this video we will explore some of the less talked things about this class. So first things first, what changed since my last video? We got a cooldown reduction on multiple magic arrows from 4 seconds to 3 seconds, which also made us one of the best PvE grinders, but that's not what this video is about. And then I believe we also got a cooldown reduction from Prime Earthquake from like 15 seconds to 12 seconds. And then of course the other big thing that happened for all classes was the add-on rework. And like in my last video, I will show my add-ons at the end of the video, so if you're only here for those, you can skip right ahead. Then I also need to clarify some stuff I said in my last video. Just because I play with Bolide and Aquatrail doesn't mean you have to. There are witches out there that perform really well with voltaic pulls. I will link you such a case in the video description. It's just not what I am used to, and it is also not what I recommend for large scale, like Node War and Siege. For such cases you want to have your range pressure. Another thing is about the lightning chain. I told you guys to lock it, and I still stand by that, but some people have reached out to me and said, oh, you are supposed to spam this in your main ball because you can uncover ninjas and kunos with it. I mean, maybe this was a good idea 3 years ago, where you didn't have all these fast classes that can render in your face at any given second and CC and kill you. As a witch and wizard you are extremely squishy, and this skill is not protected, and because it's an absolute skill you can't instacast afterwards. So if you wanna spam this in your main ball, I mean, be my guest, I certainly won't do this. I'd much rather be protected and ready to engage, disengage or cast PA, because if you are laying in the dirt doing nothing, you aren't helping anyone and you've done everything wrong. A notable thing about the skill is that you can V-sniff people with it. So if you are into open worlds, 1v1s, maybe this will help you. I will put a clip of it in the video description. The other thing I told you guys to lock, or what I had locked, was Magical Shield. I pretty much did a complete 180 on this skill and came to really like it. As a succession witch, you have really high damage and range pressure, but the issue I was facing was that you don't live long enough to be able to dump your damage in the enemy ball before you evaporate. And with this skill, and also with running the Mind Focus Lightstone set, and also utilizing your Mana Absorb and your Magnus skill, you are able to pull this off. The issue where you are standing there without mana and can't do anything is smaller than I thought. Because even if you run into the issue, you still have your Whale-Tendon potions, which also recover mana, and also your teleports don't require mana, they only require stamina. So it's manageable. But I really wouldn't recommend this without Mind Focus Lightstone set. Let's get into the first topic I want to talk about. Mouse movement. For some reason everyone tends to think that you need to be able to pull off these crazy mouse move teleports to be good on this class. This is certainly not true. One of the reasons why you still might wanna learn this is, again, if you are into dueling and playing with voltaic pulls, because this can be mouse moves behind people's frontal guards to catch them off guard. With Bolide, and because it is range, you don't really have the issue of reaching your opponent, because let's say he is standing there, I can teleport the whole range of my teleport and still be able to CC him. With voltaic, because it doesn't go as far as Bolide, You need to be somewhat close to your opponent. With mouse moving your teleport, you can determine somewhat the distance of your teleport. If you guys want to practice mouse movements, I can also link you another guide in the video description. I certainly don't use them at all. During Node Wars and Siege, I find it to be more confusing, more tedious, because even when teleporting normally and you are facing some direction, you have this split second, this wind-up animation, where you can still rotate your camera and choose the direction you are going. So you can teleport forward, face backward, and you still teleport backwards. You don't have to use mouse movements. In my opinion, it's just tedious and only a tool for 1v1s. Another thing people use mouse movements for is for earthquake. I told you in my last video that you can choose the direction of earthquake by just rotating your camera. You can also do this with mouse movement. And in my opinion, this is one of the better uses for mouse movement, because let's say you want to engage with earthquake and you would rotate your camera. For a second, you don't see what's going on in front of you. And if you would engage with mouse movements, you are all the time facing in the same direction and see what's going on. But again, in a Node Wars Siege context, if you want to, for 2 hours, mouse move your teleports and your earthquake, I mean, this will get mechanically taxing, and it's just not recommended. And lastly, in my opinion, the most important use case of mouse movement is mouse moving your blizzard. This skill is nothing new. Almost everyone knows that you have a frontal guard while casting it, and they will of course try to get behind it. If you don't cancel out of blizzard early with Earth's response or with teleport, mouse moving it is the only thing that will save you. So as a side note, some people don't know that you can cancel out of blizzard. It looks like this. Only towards the very end of the animation you are stuck and can't do anything. But if both of your teleports are off cooldown and you are low health, so you also can't use your Earth's response, just mouse move your frontal guard and hope that you don't get CC'd. For some reason, a lot of people, Moosers especially, they come from your left, so it's a good idea to mouse move your blizzard counterclockwise. And just pray that the game doesn't desync or desyncs hard enough that you don't get CC'd. Another topic I want to cover is casting down from a high ground. Some people have issues with falling down when they try to range DPS, or also where some of their skills go in the ground in front of them. There's a few things to mitigate this, so let's start by the skills that move you forward. The prime suspect is of course Bollides, then also Elemental MMA, and also by a tiny bit Frigid Fog. What doesn't move you at all is your lightning combo, then also Meteor and Earth Arrow. And then we also have Freeze, where only the second attack of Freeze moves you forward, but also only a tiny amount. So let's start with what not to do is to be at the edge and cast Bollite. So just move you forward and you fall down. What you want to do is do the wind up animation of Bollites in a different direction and then only move your camera at the last second so that the actual attacks of Bolide land somewhere else. But your character doesn't move forward, it moves in the direction where your camera was initially. And then as for your skills not hitting in front of you, in case where you aren't directly aiming at targets, this might be true that some of your damage disappears in the ground in front of you. But if you have aim assist turned on, this is turned on by default, and I also recommend you to keep it on. This might just be a visual bug. So some of your stuff hits the ground, but the damage actually goes to your opponents. So this is, don't worry about it, just, I mean, don't be too far off, of course, but it might just be a visual thing. To demonstrate the importance of aim assist, just look at this scenario. My goal is to CC this guy right here. Currently I have aim assist turned off, and what happens is that my bullet disappears in the edge in front of me, because I don't have a clear line of sight to my enemy. If I turn aim assist on, suddenly I get a hit marker and am able to CC my opponent. You can achieve this even without aim assist. If you aim directly at the enemy. But this is much harder, because if you move your camera just by a slight bit, or if the opponent moves, you lose the hit marker, and then you can't your skill won't reach. So I tried to play without aim assist. I've tested it long enough in Node War. I mean, you can theoretically shoot through barricades with it, be a bit more precise. In theory, you should be able to get behind people's frontal guards, but that's not reliable. You have problems rage feeding. It's just horrible. Just turn it on and never think about it again. On this topic, let's talk about your camera position. As some of you guys pointed out that or asked me why I play with my camera at the top of the screen. It's just that during combat you get a way bigger overview of what's going on. So you have this semi bird's eye view, and just you notice and see more stuff. Because of the angle that you have on everything, it's much harder to throw your bolide or meteor somewhere where there isn't any ground. So it's a bit harder to miss your meteor and bolide shots. The downside is that you don't notice or see edges or slopes in the ground. So it seems like that there is a clear line of sight between me and there, but meteor disappears on this edge, and this is much clearer if you have your camera where it is initially. So you see, of course, I can't shoot my meteor past this, but I still think that this bird's eye view will benefit you in Node War and Siege much more. A bit of a downside is that if you die and you get a long loading screen, your camera gets resetted. This is not a big issue anymore, because a lot of the loading screens are now quick loading screens, and you spawn with the camera where it was initially. And also, as a kind of a small hack, if you get a long loading screen, towards the end of the loading screen you can actually already start moving your camera, and then if you get out of the loading screen, you spawn with your camera almost up. So another thing I want to talk about is protected range damage. Here it is key that you alternate between your super armors and frontal guards. So you risk getting a bit of damage when using super armors, and then you absorb some damage when using frontal guards. Here we have our two skills, Residual Lightning Combo and Lightning Storm High Voltage. And it is important in what order you cast them, because if you come from the Residual Lightning side, there is actually a gap. If you hold RMB after that, it looks like this. Now we have a gap, and then our frontal card shows up. If you go the other way around, you can close this gap. So if I now hold RMB, we straight up go from a frontal guard to a super armor. And then another thing is about this Residual Lightning combo. We have these normal attacks, and then we can also do extra attacks. And if we do the whole animation by holding down R&B, we can't link other skills after it, so we will always have a gap. This looks like this. If I now cast Bolide, we have this gap between the two super armors, and if we want to close this gap, we can't do the full animation of Residual Lightning, so we have to cancel it early. So we lose a bit of extra damage, but we stay protected the whole time. And a fully protected range damage combo where you don't really care about recesses or something like that would look like this. And then anytime where you need a quick frontal guard because you get so much range pressured, you can always use your mana absorb. Another important topic is how you cast your PA. This is especially important in Node 1 Siege. You should always listen to your shot caller when he announces it. Don't go around solo PAing. I mean, if the shot caller doesn't really care or doesn't announce it, just you're on your own. Just do it before you engage or when you are getting engaged. What's important is that you always link a teleport or a super armor skill to your PA, so you go from super armor to super armor, because then there's less chance that you are getting desynced, CC'd. There's nothing worse than when you are announcing that you are gonna PA here with a ping or a chat macro, and then you get CC'd, your PA doesn't go off, maybe it even goes on cooldown, and the engage is happening and no one has PA. So always make sure that you are going from something protected to the PA. What you can also do is, if you are a bit late to the engage, it's already happening, there's fighting done everywhere, you can port in and cast PA. This is also possible. Also make sure who you're giving PA to. It's no use if you're standing in the back and casting PAs for your rangers. It's not really beneficial for them. Your frontliners need the PA for the engage. So go near them, announce yourself, and then be protected. Now a bit of a fun and lesser known thing about Succession Witch is that you can double jump on this class. This is done by going into the running animation, pressing tab to put your weapon away, and just before it disappears you press space. Now this doesn't look like much, but if you put on some jump height, this looks crazy. I mean, it doesn't really have any practical use cases. Let's say there's a sexy high ground up there and you can't get up otherwise, or you don't have a Pegasus, just throw on some jump height and then you can also make it. Now let's cover the big add-on change for Succession Witch, in my opinion, not much has changed. Blizzard and Meteor are still our tier 3 skills, so all self buffs last 20 seconds. I still use Earth's Eruption defensively, so I put my bonus DP on there and also minus human damage for opponents. If you think this is cringe, I still would advise you to put all DP on somewhere, because this is just nice to have and you don't run out of slots. So with the add-on update and with everything running this long, there's no excuse to not put all DP on somewhere. Just keep in mind that you actually need to hit opponents for add-ons to be applied. I still spam the shit out of Ballite, so I have my most important pre-buffs on there. I follow up with Frigid Fog, which I use to debuff, and then Fireball Explosion, I re-CC and get extra damage. If you don't really care all too much about accuracy, you might maybe want to switch accuracy rate for bonus human damage and put the accuracy rate on somewhere else. But that's just personal preference. For capped add-ons, I currently run these. I'm still switching stuff around. But again, bleeding damage is really useful. Critical hit rate, of course. Then you don't benefit from extra DP or minus human damage because this is all capped. You only benefit from evasion rate, so throw these somewhere in. And then focus on bonus damage and also accuracy rate and evasion rate. And of course your attack casting speed should also not be missing. So this pretty much concludes the guide. Sorry that it took so long. I was kind of hoping that we would get super armor on magical evasion, because this would change the playstyle of Succession Witch quite a bit. But unfortunately this doesn't seem to be the case anymore, and we are stuck where we at. If you have any feedback or some tips and tricks yourself for Succession Witch, please throw them in the comment section. Or if you have any questions, I'm also happy to answer them in the comments. Take care. Goodbye.